Resident Evil, one of the most iconic franchises in gaming history. The franchise that put survival horror on the map for many, creating a memorable cast of characters with some of the greatest voice lines in the history of gaming. The franchise has had its ups and downs, and as a matter of fact, I only got into the Resident Evil franchise this year. And by this year I mean like 2 months ago. And the first game in the franchise that I beat was Resident Evil 2 Remake. Now, it should be known that Resident Evil 2 Remake was nominated for many categories in 2019 for many Game of the Year awards. But does the game still hold up in 2021? Say you want to get into the Resident Evil franchise in 2021, or whenever you're going to be watching this video, you might be thinking, is Resident Evil 2 Remake as good as they say it is? Now before we get into this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more content like this in the future. And a heads up, I've only got footage for Leon's campaign, not Claire's. And yes, Resident Evil 2 Remake is 100% worth it. Now, let's dive into the new survival horror.
I need some sleep.
Resident Evil 2 follows the events of Resident Evil 1. However, you don't need to have played this game in order to enjoy the masterpiece, which is 2. Before I keep going, I am new to the franchise and I've not played the original 2, but I might get into it at some point in the future, and I will be calling Resident Evil 2 Remake Resident Evil 2 from here on out. Resident Evil 2 gives you the option of either playing as Claire Redfield, the sister of one of the protagonists from the first Resident Evil, which is meant to serve as a subtle continuity between the two games, and the king of one-liners himself, Leon Scott Kennedy.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Resident Evil 2 plops you into Raccoon City, a city that has been overrun by a zombie outbreak. Depending on who you choose to play as, there are 2 different storylines, as the characters get split up quite early on in the beginning. I mean, like, literally at the start of the game. This means that the characters will be traversing different areas at different times, meaning that they will also encounter certain situations differently. Oh, and I cannot forget that opening cinematic. That CGI cutscene is truly a masterclass. Not only does it look great, it sets the tone perfectly. A radio broadcaster subtly mentions that there's something terribly wrong that's going on, and which is laughed off by the truck driver as we see, and that truck driver that we see joking about it. And even eating that burger, which is animated really well but looks inedible, foreshadows how these inhuman creatures are slowly breaking their way into the lives of many. And then, yeah, the crash with the zombie, of course. Resident Evil 2 sets up its objectives clearly. Zombies, bad. And when you do reach Raccoon City Police Department, it becomes even clearer that, yes, this place isn't safe. I need to get out of here. But with a premise like this, it needs to be fun to play through the world that has been set up, right?
You bastard.
Resident Evil 2's gameplay is a true joy to play through. As a survival horror game, it centers around the player trying to find a way to escape and survive. It really makes you feel like you are in a zombie outbreak. All jokes aside, it's great. The shift to third person compared to the OG's fixed camera angles and tank controls, which I can tell you from my experience playing Resident Evil 1 Remake, aren't so good. But this also makes you actually see what is going on. Instead of getting a slight jump scare walking to the next room by seeing a zombie that wasn't in your field of vision, you can now see the shadows and outlines of creatures in the distance, and when they do get close to you, you see them attack the player in a gruesome manner. This shift just makes it so much more authentic, real, yeah, something like that. Another great thing is the limited inventory. Resident Evil games are known for their inventory management system, and this one is really well made. Unlike in open world games like, I don't know, Breath of the Wild, we have literal unlimited pile of inventory. It helps make that game immerse you in that, hey, I'm a hero and that I'm going to save the world. In Resident Evil 2, this limited inventory space makes you go along the lines, hey, you are a literal nobody, you don't got no special powers, now act smartly and think ahead what is the best choices of outcome. This helps you immerse you into the world. Not only do you have a limited inventory, but there are also a limited amount of resources for you to pick up and place in this inventory. The game really just makes you feel weak and helpless. Along with the fact that the zombies take, 10 shots to go down, and then when they go down, they get right back up again as if you didn't kill them at all. That's right, zombies don't stay dead. They're actual zombies, They do if you blow their brains out. If you don't, like, they'll just take a quick midday siesta and then they'll just come back up again. The enemies also differ. Again, not going to spoil it, but there are some enemies that show up later that really make zombies look weak. But speaking of enemy variety, there is one enemy that really is a great yet annoying enemy. You might know him as Mr. X or simply the Tyrant. Now this guy, oh boy, let me get into this. This guy is something else. Now you know in some horror games like Outlast where you have a chaser enemy, but they only chase you in a small scripted area? Well, Mr. X, you win the award for the best chaser enemy, because this guy not only chases you in the room that you encounter in, but he just decides to follow you around the whole police station. And I'm not kidding saying that the station is big, it's massive. 4 total floors of rooms and tight areas where Mr. X can get you at any moment, except for safe rooms, those are safe. And Mr. X has a one-hit kill move, I'm pretty sure he does, yeah. Yeah, like it when he grabs you and then it's all over. If you don't have any like defense items. He's really strong and you can't kill him. You can stun him and you can also make him move slower by shooting his head off. Try it, definitely, yeah, no, shooting his head off, it really helps. But all in all, it's great gunplay, third-person view, limited inventory space, limited resources, strong and well-designed enemies, and a tight environment. Resident Evil 2 is really great. Oh yeah, but yeah, the Resident Evil staple, puzzles. The puzzles are great, not as tricky as the first Resident Evil remake, but still tricky. They make you think from time to time. They make you backtrack a lot, and the backtracking here is great, as it really makes you immerse into the world, thinking about what key items I need to bring with me, what puzzle items I need to take with me into this area, how much ammo should I bring with me, should I bring a health item in case I get hit. Resident Evil 2's gameplay has such a great gameplay design that there is never a dull moment, and replayability is through the roof with this one.
You said the virus turned people into monsters, not reptiles.
Fair point.
Now for the atmosphere. I touched a bit upon it in the premise and gameplay, but yeah, what else can I say? It's a wonderfully crafted environment. Resident Evil is meant to be a survival horror franchise, and many people have said that the franchise has strayed away from this and become a bit more action since Resident Evil 4. However, Resident Evil 2 managed to blend them perfectly. Like I said in the gameplay section, the gameplay hastens the tempo and makes the environments so much more horrific and scary. One thing I didn't mention about the third-person view is the flashlight. This flashlight, in all honesty, is so bad as a realistic flashlight, but really good at crafting and helping make the environment what it is. It lights up only a small section of the screen, but that means you're going to have to use your other senses as well to try and find your way around Raccoon Police Department. And one thing that makes Resident Evil 2's atmosphere is the sound. The sound. I love Resident Evil 2's sound design and soundtrack. Resident Evil 2's lack of a proper soundtrack makes you feel alone, but when the soundtrack comes in, you know stuff is about to go down. There's one part in the ending sequence and it's just so good, like the music accompanied with it, it crafts this perfect environment. I mean, yeah, the sounds are really great. The zombies sound terrifying and look just as terrifying. The other enemies in the game are also really well designed and are grounded into the game. You see, if the game has stuff that are completely unrealistic, in the already unrealistic world of the game, it just makes it less immersive. Like for instance, if, for example, Resident Evil 2 had a gorilla walking around with an AK, that would subtly not be as immersive as a licker is in Resident Evil. It just is really well grounded in the already crafted world. Continuing on with enemies, Mr. X, not going to say much except the sound design for him is perfectly made to make you actually feel really scared and threatening when you hear him. I really don't have too much to say about the atmosphere other than that it is a really well made, and if you enjoy a good horror game, Resident Evil 2 is definitely it. Even if you don't like horror games, you will like how well designed and crafted the Resident Evil 2 environment and atmosphere is made. Side note, I think I just realized I repeated myself a bit.
Don't shoot! Get down!
Now for the story. I'm still quite new to the Resident Evil franchise, but from what I know, the stories tend to be wacky and bare bones. This sounds like a recipe for a bad story, but not in this case. Resident Evil 2's story is basic and well-paced, but what makes it even better are the characters. Leon and Claire are great protagonists, and they become even more better developed through the other characters that they meet along the way. Oh, and their voice actors really, and I mean really, did a great job. They managed to perfectly convey what the characters are going through,
Is this a fucking joke?
and along with good writing we can actually relate to these characters. If you want a story as narratively moving as, let's say, The Last of Us, this game ain't it. However, if you want a good game with really well-made characters that are really cool, and a franchise with some good lore, this game is definitely it. Oh, and speaking of really cool characters, if you beat the game twice, once with Leon and once with Claire, you are introduced to one of the coolest characters ever. Trust me on that one. And here we are, the end of the first Storm experience. If I haven't made it clear enough, Resident Evil 2 is one of my favorite games. Scratch that, it's actually my favorite game of all time, beating other games like Final Fantasy VII, Metal Gear Solid, and Hades. I fell in love with the franchise, its characters, its lore, everything really. I don't have much else to say that if you're thinking of getting Resident Evil 2 or haven't played any Resident Evil games before, then let me say this, Resident Evil 2 is the best way to get introduced into the franchise, and with some great characters, well-designed environment, and great survival horror gameplay, Resident Evil 2 is simply fascinating.
Please! Give me your hand. I got you. Give me your other hand.
Hey guys, although maybe I should have said that at the start, but yeah, I hope you enjoyed this first review type video. Let me know if you want to see any more videos like this, or what I can do better, or stuff like I might have missed out on. I enjoyed writing up and editing this video, but yeah, if you did enjoy it, leave a like, as that means a lot, and subscribe for more videos. That does really, it comes a long way. And yeah, I'm out, and we'll be working on the next video. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Oh yeah, before you go, one more Leon clip to end the video.
Is this a fucking joke?
And that's Storm out.